All right, we get into the Pirates in this segment, and let's get right at it. Friday night, Pirates leading Chicago, and they decide to go with Juan Nicasio and Tony Watson. 6 runs later, it's a loss, and it ended up being a series loss because of that game. Colin, let's start with you.
Well, let's start. Hey, Benz, what did I say to you last time both of us were on this show?
Yes.
What did I say to you?
This struck me during the commercial break as well. The last time I was on with Colin said I was insane for saying that Felipe Rivera would seize the closer's role from Tony Watson by the All-Star break.
And I might be right.
And he probably will still be right because they're so hell-bent on not making him the closer, it boggles my mind. You could give me all the statistical relevance, all the minutia from the stat geeks that you want. He's a closer. He's as cable-wired to be a closer as we have seen in Pittsburgh, I don't know, since Grilly emerged as it, since Hanrahan emerged as it. I mean, this guy is lights out a closer, in my opinion. Just give him the job.
I know what the numbers are, 20-plus pitches with Rivera. I understand where ERA goes and the opposing batting average goes. But I'll tell you this, Clint Hurdle, in my mind, was derelict of duty on Friday night because he risked, and he did. He lost Friday's game trying to win Saturday's game in the same blush, and he screwed up. He needed to just march him on out there. If he was going to run him the 8th, run him the 9th as well. The guy's not going to need surgery because he throws 25 pitches. Make him throw, worry about tomorrow.
Do you guys buy that the leverage situation is in the 8th? Like, for instance, you could have 2, 3, 4, so I'm going to bring in Rivera there because I don't want to lose it before it gets to the 9th.
No, I don't buy it. And when you have a good closer, we hear time after time the hardest 3 outs to get are the final 3 outs of the game and all these cliches, except when you are trying to finagle a closer into the 8th inning. Then it's leverage situations are more important. So, no, I don't. The last 3 outs are the hardest to get. Your best pitcher should be pitching them.
What I would do, I would seriously look at making Chad Kuhl one of those guys. I would make Chad Kuhl. I would start the transformation of Chad Kuhl into a back-end bullpen guy right now. Because I don't think he has it as a starter. He can't work past the 5th inning. And for my money, he could be a great setup guy with that fastball and throwing 4 different pitches. I love Chad Kuhl in a role like that.
Hey, Jeff, it's not only a question of do we buy the leverage argument, the big outs in the 8th versus the big outs in the 9th. It's do they, because they never did before when they always had the option of going to, like I said before, Hanrahan, then Grilly, then Melanson to get the biggest outs whenever they would occur in the 8th. They never did it. You know, so like all of a sudden they're advancing this notion that you could put your best reliever anywhere where the most important 3 outs are, but they had really good relievers for the duration of this run, this resurgence that the Pirates had for 3 years. They never did it.
Do you remember how big of a story, Tim, it was when they in the 8th like one time a summer? You're dead right about this, and I'd kind of forgotten about it until you said it. They never did this. This is like all new for them. And again, I don't understand why guys can't throw 28 pitches. How 21 is different than 28.
All right, so what do you guys do?
I don't get it.
And Jason, I'll go to you first. What do you do with Tony Watson now?
His arm's tired, isn't it? It's got to be
something.
He might need some rest. I think to use Hurdle's term, I think you could unplug him a little bit.
Yeah, the dead, in a classic Hurdle speak here, the dead arm, it's real. You know, that it's real thing that Clint likes to say. I think this is a real dead arm for Watson. And if they don't want to call it that, call it a strained glute. I don't care. Put him on the DL, let him decompress.
That left arm discomfort.
Right.
You know, one of those phantom injuries. And even it may even be a real injury because of overuse. Again today, he gives up a home run to Ian Happ. And he just – I've known Tony Watson for a long time. I haven't seen the look that I saw from Tony Watson sitting in the dugout today. I've never seen it from him. He just looked lost, and it's really out of character for Tony Watson.
You guys have all fielded questions about Clint Hurdle, manager, and Tim, I'll start with you. What do you think of Clint Hurdle as a tactical manager, and is it much that he's making a lot of tactical mistakes this year, or he just doesn't have the roster to get over the hump?
I think a lot of it is what you just referenced there, in that the tactics he was able to employ were able to be amplified by a better talent that he had. You know, I think that the X's and O's decisions that he made, if they were poor, they were hidden by better players, and if they were good, they were amplified because they had better players. Now, if he's throwing darts, and you know, there's a 55-45 probability of success or failure in a lot of baseball decisions anyway, and with much lesser talent this year or suspended talent, deported talent. It's a lot more like, what, 66-33 right now for Hurdle.
I think that Clint Hurdle, there's a depletion of talent, but I think Clint Hurdle was a much better manager when he could turn to Jeff Bannister as a bench coach. I think that when Jeff Bannister left town, so did a lot of the baseball acumen on that bench.
You guys look at this Brewers series as the trade them or not after this series, meaning you win 3 of 4, you're in this, you lose 3 of 4, get swept in Milwaukee, then you start looking ahead to next year.
There's 7 games under 500, right?
Right.
Something like that. I don't look at this as being seriously in it anyway, to the point where you're going to keep your assets if you get reasonable offers for them. I think what they need to be considering is selling for a reasonable offer. If you get something that makes sense for McCutchen, sure, go, whether they win or lose the Brewers series or not. I think they need to take that part of it out of the equation.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jason, because you can't get to the wild card. The National League West is too strong. You've got to win this division or you're dead in the water. It's win or nothing right now for the NL Central teams.
And no one is happier with the resurgence of Andrew McCutchen in that 6 hole than Neil Huntington. How great is it for Neil to go to every other team in the majors, especially good teams that probably have decent heart of the order lineups, and say, look, he's comfortable in the 6 hole. Look what he's done since he's gotten to the 6 hole. You need someone to lengthen your batting order to make a real pennant push or win the wild card. All of a sudden, Andrew in that role, he looks maybe even better than he did when they were trying to manipulate a trade this offseason to Washington.
Number 26 was missing from Steelers offseason activities. Is that a big deal? We'll discuss next. Number 1 Cochran Sports Showdown here on KDKA TV.